Okay, three, two, and one. Here we are starting the spoiler talk of the Batman. As you can tell from the title and as you can tell from this introduction, the video will rely heavily on spoilers. So if you have not yet watched the Batman and you have any interest in watching the Batman, then please click away from this video. Go watch my non-spoiler review if you like to. But otherwise, yeah, no, we're gonna talk heavily spoilers. By the way, for those of you that don't know, my name is DLPOV from Caesar Productions. Caesar Productions being my photography and film and art and all that bullshit, gaming, Twitch, whatever accounts. Welcome to this channel, and thank you for clicking on this video. I'm going to be talking heavy spoilers right now on the Batman. I'm giving those of you that have not watched the movie another 3 seconds, 3 counts for you to head out. 1, 2, 3. There, we're safe. Cool. Anyway, the Batman. Holy shit. I went a little, and that's really just making it very minimal. I was quite skeptical about the movie at first. I didn't know how to feel about Robert Pattinson being casted as Bruce Wayne, to be honest. Not because of his background in the other movies as he started, because he did, I think, The Lighthouse as well with Willem Dafoe, which apparently he was incredible in, and I have yet to watch, which I've been meaning to watch as well. So it was nothing against his acting that I had doubts about. It was more about that I didn't see him fit as a Bruce Wayne character right off the bat. He, again, I kind of stick to a certain degree to that opinion in the sense that I don't think he's a great Bruce Wayne right now. I think that he played in a great Batman, and I said this in a non-spoiler review as well, that I feel like with him I have the Andrew Garfield problem, where I don't see him as well as Bruce Wayne as I see him as a Batman, just like Andrew Garfield. I saw him as a great Spider-Man, but just not as a great Peter Parker. So that may also have to do, and again, calling back to the previous video, that may also have to do with the fact that this movie is based off Batman Year One, a storyline which bases Batman in his early years, and he's still learning the ropes of being a vigilante. Maybe in those stories, he was more this kind of Bruce Wayne than I'm used to seeing, like the confident rich man who has his shit down. And maybe that's why, to me, Robert Pattinson didn't feel right away as a good Bruce Wayne. Maybe because he's based off an interpretation of Bruce Wayne that I have not been informed enough about, or not have read enough about. So maybe he followed the books line to line, but maybe I couldn't tell because I haven't indulged myself in those stories as much. I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. I will say that that Robert Pattinson did an excellent job in portraying the anxiety-filled, paranoid kind of Bruce Wayne that I was hoping to see at some point. And obviously, we're gonna go bounce back and forth with stories over here, once from scenes back and forth over here. There's a moment, for example, where he sees Falcone, and who he thought was Selina Kyle next to him, because he sees the boots, and you see like that paranoia of him always. And I kind of got caught into it a little bit as well, where I just forget about the rest of anyone around in his surroundings. I'm just focusing on him as an actor, and he's just looking straight and trying to walk towards to see if she's there, if it's really Selina Kyle. And you just completely forgot that they're actually in a public fucking area, like where everyone knows who Bruce Wayne is, and also Falcone. Obviously, his people are going to be around him, so they're going to stop him. But you just forget all about that. You immerse yourself almost a little bit into his shoes with his paranoia and his mentality, which is really, really cool. His insomnia, the way he acts, the way he looks at the computer screen as if he's been staring at it for hours. Great acting. He does a great job in that sense, in that Batman, yeah, Batman without the mask kind of character, without the cowl. Sorry. There were a bunch of like really cool scenes that he's had, and if you like Star Wars, and this is not a spoiler really, but if you ever watched Rogue One, there's a Darth Vader scene. Sorry, I guess it's a minor spoiler, but there's a Darth Vader scene um, in which, to me, like the whole idea of everything being blacked out and you just see like light shining, and that little bit of light source helps you create like the image and the atmosphere within a scene. Uh, this Batman had a couple of those sequences where everything was just straight up black, and you just see like the flashes from the guns and or the hits or whatever, or the little lamp light sources around the area, and that gives you sneak peeks of what's going on, but it still gives you the whole picture kind of. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, and in Rogue One they did a Darth Vader scene in that style, which reminded me a lot of what I saw here in this movie. And holy shit, it was really well done, really well put together, and it was really really cool. The directing, the cinematography in regards to those sequences was really well put together, and I feel like something that this movie also did very very well. And I've also said that in the previous non-spoiler reviews, that this movie did such a good job in giving Gotham as its own life form, almost its own organism, making it its own organism, that it was a living world, and you have little everyone's kind of doing their own little thing, and everything's happening all at once, and people are just crossing paths with one another by coincidence. So correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I did not look into this. I have zero research on this. But in the early scene, when you have like the what looks to be the Joker squad, um, I want to say that the kid who had the face half painted, it's almost like as if it was the story. There was a story built behind that they didn't tell us, but you can almost assume that and this is my interpretation of it again, I guess, that he had his face half painted because he still needed to earn his full stripes, maybe, and that's why they were like the gang was trying to tell him like, hey, go beat up this innocent guy, and almost in a way kind of indulging him to turn over 100%. Um, and maybe that's within their Joker gang culture of like, hey, you start off maybe without any face paint. Once you beat someone up or do something criminal like, then you get half a face painted, and once you go to the next level, then you're fully one of us. Maybe that's what I interpreted it as. So, and the fact that that the movie creates such a little piece and uses this kid who is still half and half about whether or not he wants to really get to this level, and uses him almost as the innocence, the good in some of these gangs, to have Robert Pattinson's Batman come in and beat the fuck out of that that clown squad, and yeah, no, and just overall, you get that perspective of he could tell that this kid was not 100% into it, so you kind of lets him go, and that's kind of cool. Like just that mini world building, I want to say, within that movie, and which also, and this is again skipping ahead to a different scene, but towards the end when you have the Riddler followers, I think that's a wonderful interpretation of what would have been, I believe, also the Long Halloween, if I'm not mistaken, the comic book in which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, where all these villains take over parts of Gotham and have their own gangs. I found that was a very interesting interpretation of giving the Riddler like these cartoonish goons that you would otherwise see on television, like with like the green spandex with the question marks on it. Instead of doing that, they decided to create it so that it made it look more like followers of the Riddler that were inspired by him. And again, just like you had like, I'm calling them the Joker squad, the Joker goons right now, because that's what they resemble. Just like the Riddler goons that you had almost similar like clown face painted goons in the beginning of the movie. And I was just putting that with the Long Halloween together, where you really have gangs already established with a certain look, almost groups of people, and instead of making it very cartoonish, very very childish or very stupid in the sense of like, oh, let's just give everybody these same colored outfits and just make them followers of this one villain. No, like they're kind of established little gangs already. I wouldn't be surprised if by the next movie, which we will get a next movie, I wouldn't be surprised if by the next movie when Penguin does take over, we get his goons having like similar like well dressed or maybe long trench coats kind of things, in the style of like the Penguin gang. Um, Speaking of Penguin, Colin Farrell did an excellent job as a Penguin. I really liked him. I think he was the most comedic aspect of the movie. He was really well put together. Again, his makeup was incredible. His acting was fun. He played a scumbag, kind of dirty. I wouldn't say that he wasn't yet a villain in this movie. He was more of like, he was just like a more of like a henchman. That's what he looked like. Not quite the henchman of like the two door twins that got their asses handed to them by Batman, but more like an upper level henchman. That's what he was really, under Falcone, and it was a great origin story. I want to say for the Penguin. I feel if that's what they were going for from turning from Cobblepot to the Penguin. Falcone himself, I've never been too crazy, and this is with all due respect to the actor. I've never been too crazy overall for the actor that played Falcone. At the very least, I'm gonna say have a little bit of respect and call him by his name. For where is he? Where is he? Sorry, I have to do a little research because I am an idiot and I did not research beforehand. Where are you? Holy crap. Gosh. Sorry. John Turturro. I apologize. Sorry. I know he's a good actor. I know that people love him. I'm just generally not a huge fan of his character. Um, and I feel like he did play a menacing, kind of creepy mob boss, I guess, in this movie. But I still wasn't 100% convinced on Falcone right away. When he told Bruce Wayne the story of how how his father died, his parents died. Like I obviously anyone knows that you cannot trust a mob boss. And I was like, you got to be skeptical. But I would have loved if it was really in that it happened the way it did. I would have loved if like no, Falcone really didn't kill his parents. It was really like the whole police shit. But it was kind of predictable that he was just lying and that it was going to come down to it. What I did not expect was for him to get killed that way. I felt like he was going to get put away and maybe eventually he would come back and Cobblepot, by that time, Cobblepot would have been taken over, the whole shit. Um, so the twist, and I'm not sure if this is true to the comics, but the twist of Catwoman, Selena Kyle, being the daughter of Falcone was interesting to me. It definitely added a little bit more suspension. However, I will call bullshit on that gunfire miss that she pulled when she was gonna shoot him. Even the guy next to me in the theater was like, "Wait, she missed from that close." And I guess guns aren't as easy to shoot as they may seem. Maybe that was a thing. Maybe something along those lines happened. But then again, you kind of expected her to have already wielded a gun beforehand if she's so comfortable with grabbing it out of somebody's hand. That's in my opinion, at least. And I feel like that was just done purely for suspension. I felt like Falcone definitely had plot armor at that point. Otherwise, another minor nitpick that I'll have is just I'm not crazy about car chase sequences. Again, this movie had one with the Batman had to show off his car when he was following Penguin. They kind of ruined it a little bit on themselves by towards the end of that car chase scene, which again it wasn't bad. It's just I've never really had interest in car chase scenes. Period. I'm not deducting any points from of the movie for that scene, but it just kind of felt a little dragged on for me. I felt that they could have cut it a little bit differently as well, for the simple reason that towards the end where Batman finally catches and smacks the fuck out of like the Penguin's car. You see the ramp first, and then you see the shit explode, obviously, and then you have Cobblepot screaming like, "Yeah, woo, that's what you get." Uh, and then obviously you already expect the car to go through the fucking flames and hit Falcone, the Penguin's car. I felt that could have been maybe cut differently to the point where you don't see the ramp at all first, and that the shit explodes first. But then maybe you just get a quick cut to just the ramp for 1 second after the Penguin's cheering. So you're like, so then you can be like, oh shit. Minor nitpick again. I found it very hilarious. I didn't laugh out loud on this for this part, but I found it very hilarious that when they were doing the interrogation scene over there in regards to the maze, the rat maze, which we'll get into the Riddler in a second because I feel like he needs his own sequence in this review. But when they're interrogating Cobblepot, I will say that I found it hilarious when he was tied up, and then like Commissioner Gordon and Bruce and Batman both leave, and you have him literally like almost walking around like a penguin, like hand tied. That was a little bit on the nose, a little funny, though. I admit it, I like that actually a lot. Uh, Again, no complaints about Colin Farrell's Penguin. He did great. I know there were a couple of people that were upset about him not having his cigar on him, which I had a conversation with a friend of mine. We hadn't watched the movie at this point, and he still hasn't watched it, if I'm not mistaken. But the rumors were already going around that he didn't have his typical cigar, and I said that I'm not sure how I feel about it because I don't know if it's a point worth arguing about. I liked the idea of having a comic accurate character or villain, which may, so I would have loved to have seen him perfectly portrayed as the Penguin with like the cigar and the monocle and everything. And so I told my friend, I'm not sure how I feel about it, whether or not I should be upset about it or not. I don't think that it was a character trait, and he said, well, it technically is. It technically represents how he's rich. He's like celebrating that he's doing all these fancy shits because he's proud of the money and the wealth that he has now as a mob boss, as an underground boss. Which I had to think about him saying that before we even watched this movie, mind you, and after watching this movie, I could tell you that it makes sense for him not to smoke a cigar. I guess if we go by that logic of him being proud of showing that wealth that he has, then I guess it makes sense in this movie since technically he's a henchman. So, and it seems like he's gonna take over now, and maybe by the next movie we'll get the monocle and the cigar. So I guess in this movie it makes sense. So I retract that comment and those doubts that I had about it. Let's talk about Commissioner Gordon. Jeffrey Wright, if I'm not mistaken, is the actor. I think he also starred in the James Bond movies as an American CIA agent, if I'm not mistaken, right? Jeffrey Wright is always doing great. Let me just double confirm that it's him because I don't want to be that asshole. Yes, it is. Yeah, he played a great Commissioner Gordon. At this point, I don't have that many low standards for a Jeffrey Gordon. Yeah, for a Commissioner Gordon, for the simple reason that we've had a lot of good Commissioner Gordons already. I don't think there have been any really bad ones. Even the comedic Commissioner Gordon that we see in the Harley Quinn animated show is still a pretty fun one. I don't think I've seen really a bad one at all at this point. I can stand corrected. You can always correct me in the comment section down below. So he did what's his name again? Because how could I forget? He did basically what our ex-Commissioner Gordon. I am trying to load this as ASAP as possible. That our Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon did. I'm horrible with names, like I said. In the sense that he played like kind of a serious, kind of helpful part in this movie for Batman. It is very, very interesting that they decided to go, and they went with the line as well of, hey, you don't need to do this all by yourself. It's okay to rely on other people. And it's nice that Batman gets taught this lesson, which again, Batman's character development is something else we're going to talk about in this review. And it was nice that they were kind of working together a lot. And I I like that Commissioner Gordon was really on Batman's side, like 100%, because he definitely, when they were all locked up together, and he definitely defended his ass and let him get away because he knew that he would get shit done more than these guys, the corrupt policemen. It's nice that that was the established friendship, and it was there in the Dark Knight trilogy as well, in the Christopher Nolan trilogy as well. So it was well put together over here. It was a little bit more of a grittier Commissioner Gordon, I guess, which fit a little bit better with this type of world that they established. But yeah, Jeffrey Wright did an excellent job. Can't say much more about that. Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman. I may have said this earlier. I may have said this in the previous non-spoiler review video. She surprised me heavily. I don't know much about her as an actress, but she pulled a nice Selena Kyle. I was not expecting. I didn't know how to feel about her at first when she got casted, but she pulled a really really wonderful Selena Kyle. I like the little almost like cat the mitten hat that she has on her, because it almost feels like that's something either homemade or something that she would have been gifted from a friend, maybe. And maybe she found it cute and maybe she kept it, or maybe she saw it on the street and corner and she just bought it. It feels something very natural and something very simple that yeah, you could believe, like, yeah, this vigilante or this thief, you just gonna made it from scratch. It's not Bruce Wayne tech, which is where he got like the whole bat suit already, right? No, she has like a simple leather kind of outfit, sleek and everything, pouches and a freaking little cat hat. That's all. So that felt good. That felt normal. That felt believable. Her acting, her chemistry with Robert Pattinson was pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it was the best. I wouldn't say it was an amazing chemistry, but that's also my bias because I've always been more of a Bruce Wayne and Talia Al Ghul kind of person. So that's my shipping. Even though that I'm okay with the Catwoman and Batman shipping is okay for those of you that want to do ship wars. What else can I say about her other than it was interesting for her, the twist that they made of her being being involved as Falcone's daughter, and that whole little vengeance thing. I honestly, during that last sequence that she had with Falcone, like I stated earlier in this movie, when she misses a gunshot, I would have accepted a little bit more if he recognized her and as his daughter, and then when she pulls the gun, that he would have like taken over the gun and being like, I knew who you were the whole time, bitch. That would have been a little bit more believable for me than her missing from that close. Otherwise, it's nice that they kind of teamed up. It's nice that they kind of went their separate routes, which doesn't exclude the fact that she could come back in the future. She can still make it back, obviously, for a sequel if they have something well planned for her. So again, Zoe Kravitz did a great job. There's not much to say about it. She played a sexy, beautiful, sleek, strong, talented, and very like powerful, like also Catwoman, which is nice. It was the way she fought the other characters, the villains, like the goons. It was believable. I want to say, like, it wasn't like, oh no, like sometimes you have like this skinny girl, skinny female woman who you can almost assume this she cannot be this fucking 100-pound guy, kind of like. But in this story, in this movie, her fighting skills, the character she was up against, like they felt believable characters. They felt believable fights that she could win. Again, not to underestimate any woman. Please don't take it that way. Just putting that disclaimer out there. But yeah, no, great Selena Kyle. Let's talk about the bigger parts of this spoiler review that I wanted to talk about. First of all, Paul Dano's Riddler. Okay, so I do not want to compare this to The Dark Knight, but in my previous non-spoiler review, at the end of the video, I said, how does this compare to the Nolan trilogy at all so far? My answer, short version of it, is I've watched the Nolan trilogy so many times that it's unfair for me to give my opinion right off the bat of me watching the Batman once. Maybe I'll watch it a couple more times, and maybe I'll find other problems with the movie, or maybe I'll find more things that I love about the movie. But it's too early for me to say any of that. However, if I'm going to compare it to its most menacing villain, which it obviously pays some homage to. I'm saying obviously, but it looks like it paid definitely some homage to the Heath Ledger's Joker as well to a certain degree. I want to say that Heath Ledger's Joker was more menacing in how he was and in his presence, while I want to say that Paul Dano's Riddler was more menacing with his actions. Obviously, with the Nolan trilogy, it was a little bit more PG-13ish, so you had to be a little bit more limited when it came down to what you could and cannot show. Excuse me. With this one, since you got to be a little bit more rough around the edges, and they played with the gruesomeness a little bit by either hiding certain things or barely showing anything, so it still passes the line of what you can and cannot show, and still not be R-rated. The shit that this Riddler does is great. They managed to make, and this is okay, not to compare this to Spider-Man, but when we got Michael Keaton's Vulture as the villain for the first Homecoming, for the first Spider-Man MCU movie, I was a little bit worried because I'm like, I love Michael Keaton. How are they gonna pull this off? I trust in the Marvel, but how are they gonna pull this off? Because the Vulture was a very cartoonish character, and they managed to rewrite his history and his style to the point where it made him believable and menacing in that movie. The same thing the director managed to do with this movie with the Riddler. The Riddler's a very cartoonish character that you would figure, how would he stand up against like a physically and intelligent and rich person as Bruce Wayne / Batman? And the way they played it off was incredible. Like, you have just someone who was intellectually very, very smart, and towards the end of the movie, when he's caught in the Arkham Asylum, he's literally saying how, like, yeah, no, you inspired me, Batman. That was you're a cool motherfucker. Like, I wanted to do this together. I wanted to be like you. I wanted to and this is I think I brought this over in the previous review, or maybe in this one, I forgot because I've talked so much right now, but how it borrows a little bit some elements from a different DC movie in the sense of like the mentally unstable character of, let's say, like the Joker. It borrows elements from that storytelling point of view, and it establishes that this guy is not sane, but not in the way of like, oh, let me kill people because I'm crazy. No, not that kind of way. More of like, no, I see this inspiring figure, which again, Batman was trying to do. He was trying to like be a hero, trying to defend Gotham from its shit, its rats, its criminals. And this person saw that as well, and who also was attacked by these rich, corrupt people, and takes inspiration from that and says, you know what? I'm gonna be the man behind the chair. I'm gonna help him out. But I'm not gonna make it obvious because otherwise I'm gonna get fucked over. I'm gonna bring clues out and I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna have him be the muscle, and I'll be the brains. In his head, that's how it was, and it's interesting as well because IGN.com, on their YouTube and Facebook, they posted a video, I believe, where they stated like, does the Riddler really know who Batman is? Does the Riddler know that Batman really is Bruce Wayne? And that's one thing that just got me thinking right now, that I wanted to assume that he did. He does, right? Because even when they're in Arkham Asylum, they're talking to one another. He keeps saying Bruce Wayne, but if if Batman was his inspiration too, and I could have missed the mark on this, so you please correct me in the comment section below. If Batman was his inspiration, why did he try to assassinate him in his mansion? Because that bomb definitely could have killed him if he didn't know any better. So unless he expected Batman to be careful enough to throw the bomb away on time, because he, at the end of the day, he also had high regards to Batman. He was upset when he couldn't figure out the last puzzle at the end, the last riddle. So that's what has me thinking right now. Because otherwise, if he expected him to find the last piece of to solve the last riddle at the end, then that didn't make much sense. If he knew that Batman was Bruce Wayne and he sent Bruce Wayne a fucking bomb in his mail. So unless he was expecting him not to be there, and for Alfred to open the letter, maybe that's what it was. So again, going back to the actions of what the Riddler did in this movie, the riddles were cool. I know this movie must have drawn, I think it definitely drew inspiration from Seven, a horrifying movie, and by horrifying I mean that's exaggerated. It's a really good thriller. Where if you haven't watched it, it's with Brad Pitt, it's with Morgan Freeman, it's with Kevin Spacey, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's a really good crime thriller with some messed up elements on it as well. Seven is a great movie, and it definitely served as inspiration for the style of this Riddler and the style of this movie. I was hoping they weren't going to replicate it 100% because I knew that it was going to pay homage to it. I just really hoped that it wasn't going to do like the full-on blowout of doing the exact same movie. I'm glad that it didn't. I'm glad that it went a different route. I'm glad in a way that the Riddler was still play like the final villain in the end, because you have Falcone looking like he's gonna be the main boss in this, and the whole time I'm thinking, all right, so how is Riddler gonna be bigger than Falcone after what we just established? And yeah, no, Falcone just gets shot, and you get this very menacing scene of Paul Dano just chilling in the cafe, and just after his escape, so to say, and someone sees him running away, so they call the cops on him after he assassinates Falcone, and they say like, "Oh no, he's just chilling at this diner. I think this looks like the guy," and they arrest his ass, and he's over there just laughing, smiling. Uh, the interrogation scene was great, like just further cements Paul Dano's acting again, him being hysterical and angry, and it was really, really well put together. It was really well done. I really like that sequence a lot. Definitely up there, not to compare this again, but definitely up there with the Heath Ledger / Christian Bale scene, their interrogation scene. Now, only that Batman doesn't get to go full batshit crazy on this guy, unfortunately. Anything else I want to say in regards to the Riddler? Yeah, that first appearance that you get in the movie of him, like, just you follow the mayor in the Washington television with the camera, and all of a sudden you just get his, like, this perspective. You see the front of his face, and then you see the black, and the lights just go on for a second, and you see him, the Riddler. That was a great first appearance. The riddles that he does, again, the thumb drive was hilarious, was good. I got a good laugh, a couple good laughs as well. The riddles were really put together, like, what does a liar do when he dies? He lies still. That's a really cool riddle. I really like that one too. I even rolled my eyes a little bit, but now I'm like, oh, this is lame. I'm like, oh, holy shit, of course. For those of you that don't understand, he lies still as in he still continues lying, but at the same time, he lies still. Get it? Double entendre. Otherwise, yeah, no. I like that the first two riddles were kind of slowly pushed forward, but that the third riddle it took a little bit longer to solve, because it technically Batman didn't really solve it right away with the cops over there in the Riddler's hideout. he had to go confront the Riddler first for the Riddler to understand that he didn't really solve the last puzzle, the last riddle. I keep saying puzzle, the last riddle yet. For Batman to be like, oh shit, maybe this is something serious. So that was cool that Batman had to make a swerve and double down on double checking, making sure this shit was right. Um, yeah. Otherwise, like, can't say much more about Paul Dano. Like, I just he did great. Like, great fucking Riddler again. I will say this again, that just like I said before, compared to Heath Ledger's Joker, because again, I don't want to have to compare these two together. R.I.P. Heath Ledger again, great performances as his Joker, but I felt that Heath Ledger's Joker, was more menacing in person when you saw him and doing shit than Paul Dano's Riddler. But Paul Dano's Riddler's actions, the shit he did, was more heavy than what Heath Ledger did. So I guess that's a nice in between. I want to say in between. Um, Last thing I want to talk about, I guess. Well, one of the last things I want to talk about is um, this Batman's character development, which is something that I believe I spoke about either in the previous video or earlier this video. In the Cosmonaut Variety Hour YouTube channel that I follow, he talks about how he loves the character development in this movie. Something I didn't pick on right away on the first watch, mostly because, as I said in the previous video as well, this movie is quite long. It's noir-esque, so very dark. It kind of fucked with my eyes. It gave me a little headache towards the end of the 3-hour movie span. So I couldn't get my thoughts straight. I needed time to think. And after the YouTube channel, the Cosmonaut Variety Hour, pointed Bruce Wayne's character development out, it got me thinking and appreciating the movie a little bit more, because you definitely see that in here. You definitely see the established I don't give a fuck kind of attitude. I'm just gonna beat up villains kind of mentality of this Batman, of this Bruce Wayne, and the antisocial, paranoid kind of feeling. And towards the end, and again, I'm just repeating what they said, what he said as well. But towards the end, to see that he learns that he has to be more than just that. He cannot just be fear in criminals' lives. He has to also be hope in the public eye. And that's why this movie serves as a great character development for the character. As a starting movie, it's a great movie to start off with, because we don't get spoiled on that experienced Bruce Wayne anymore. We, in a way, is kind of like an origin story almost, in a way. Just right after the origin story, like in between story, we get a full blown out movie on that area, which is very, very cool. I liked seeing Batman just helping people out. I liked him. I liked the moment that it clicked in his head that I'm up here. I'm up here, like, safe. I shouldn't be. I should be down there helping them out. And he just, like, throws himself in the water to try and help the average person and the mayor and all those people get out of the rubble, and everyone else helping out along as well. And towards the end, when everyone's being picked up from the sewage just in the flooding, like, they just, like, he's out there just on the field with, like, these firemen and a police officer just helping bring people to like these medical beds and shit. That was very, very nice to see from a Batman movie, actually, something we haven't seen before. Uh, we kind of established that he cared about life before, but it wasn't really preluded slash showcase as to how he got here, as in this movie. That's all I really want to say in regards to that aspect, because there's not much more to talk about other than that it was nice to see the progression, and I'm very, very intrigued into seeing what they will do with the second movie, when they do a second movie, because that's most likely going to happen. Obviously, not the post-credit scene, but right before the ending, you get that little sequence between the Riddler and the Joker. and that was cool, I guess. I wasn't sure how I felt about the voice actor at first. The looks were spot on, I want to say. Joker wise, it felt very Arkham Asylum video game Joker ish. The laugh is what sold me. The laugh sounded more on point. I'm like, all right, no, this could be interesting. I want to see where this goes now. And and they did like I'm not sure this is if I'm right or not, but they definitely did like they spoke about a couple things in this movie which could build Gotham furthermore, the world of Gotham furthermore in the future. We established that there were two families, the Waynes and the Arkhams, right? So that's interesting to already establish. Um, like it's nice to see that the Waynes weren't all that great people. So that's nice to see that they were a little scummy, that they had a little bit of a bad history in the past as well, or a difficult history. Let's just say that. It's nice to see that they weren't the ideal, like Boy Scout parents, as Falcone said. Um, there was a moment where you see the word "hush" with a question mark at the end, which again that would be a cool story to have Hush in the sequel, because that would definitely fit into this kind of world and this kind of Gotham, and it's definitely not a Penguin or Bane or Mr. Freeze kind of character. It's definitely a more established, more grounded kind of character. So I feel like Hush would definitely fit into this world in the future iterations. They also that one of the cars that the Riddler gives to Bruce to Batman as well. It was just the goggles. It was like two goggles with like eyes in them. For a second, I felt like they would look like owl eyes, and I was like, "Ooh, is this?" I'm just far reaching things, I guess, for no reason. But yeah, I think it would have been cool if that would have been a nod to to the Court of Owls. It would have been nice. At some point, towards the end of the movie, at the last fight, when Batman is fighting the Riddler goons, he injects himself with something which I'm assuming just gives him adrenaline to just fight. It would be cool if that establishes how maybe Bane would work eventually into this universe. Maybe he would get like a variation of a drug that would berserk him out. Um, that would be cool if that's how they decide to implement Bane into this movie, into this world, this universe. Because I know for a fact that, well, not for a fact, but I've read that apparently Vikings back in the day, they used to take all kinds of medicine when they were going to battle sometimes, and under certain circumstances, it would just cause for some of them to go full on crazy because of all the drugs that they would take, and they would not feel pain, so they could keep on fighting regardless. If they would get stabbed or punched, like, they would give them so much adrenaline they would just go semi crazy, which is what they would call a berserker state. Um, so something like that in that concept would be interesting as well. And maybe Bane would have like a drug that gets him to that state, but that he can still function properly, and maybe that will be his counter. But then again, we also kind of got Bane already in The Dark Knight Returns, which again, we already got Joker in that movie as well, but we still got him in this movie. So I don't know. Um, any other Batman villains I would love to see? Man Bat wouldn't fit in this universe at all. I feel like I don't think this universe is going for something supernatural right now, like that. Which again, Bane. That's why Bane would be tricky to pull off unless, like I said, you use the concept of drugs that enhance your body and make you go crazy in berserker state. That kind of explanation. Um, who else would fit? Like Killer Croc wouldn't fit in this either, unless you decide to talk about someone. Well, actually, Killer Croc would be interesting as well if you go up about someone who has a certain kind of skin disease. I think they actually had a interesting short, a Mortal Kombat short, where they try to explain a reptile on YouTube. I forgot what the trailer was, but it was like a very short clip of like a possible live action Mortal Kombat work that never came up about. Not the actual live action Mortal Kombat YouTube series that came out. There was a different one, um, and I think it was also with Michael J. Fox, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry if I'm fucking up the name, but they established that Reptile in that universe had a certain skin disease to which he came up about as a baby, looking like so freakish. So maybe for Killer Croc, they could establish something like that in real world, where it's just a guy who had like a freakish skin disease, made him look almost like a lizard reptile kind of thing, crocodile even, and who just happens to get into heavy cannibalism. And maybe that's something like dark enough to go in, that to be established in this world as well, um, especially since we're going up against someone who just hides and hunts in the shadows, just like Batman. That would be his thing, the sewer kind of area, and that would maybe create a similar type of murder drama, murder mystery kind of thing, where he's just going through sewers and just maybe like hunting down prey and shit and whatever. And the final shot would be something fucked up, like just going into his lair and just seeing a bunch of skeletons everywhere of all the people he's cannibalized. Who knows? I'm just throwing shit out there. Um, Overall, last thing I want to say about this movie, because I know this is already like 45 minutes long. The last thing I want to say about this movie is I am of the opinion that this could have been shortened out if if the director is planning on, and I have to give a shout out to the director, so I want to pronounce his name correctly. If the director, hold up, if the director Matt Reeves, I want to say right, so yeah, Matt Reeves. If the director is planning on doing multiple sequels to this movie, and maybe like even a trilogy, even, I get it. Do I feel like this movie should have been shortened out a little bit? Sure. Do I feel certain sequences could have been shortened out or taken out? I do. Do I dislike the movie for it? No, I do not. I did not dislike the movie. For me, it was just a little bit of a heavy watch. Mind you, I didn't mind Dune, but then again, I feel like Dune was also easier on the eyes to watch. Again, the fact that this was a very dark noir-esque film, I think maybe, and this could just be physically my physical problems. Uh, the fact that I was getting slight headaches towards the end of the movie because my eyes always had to focus on the light sources of that were on the screen. I mean, I feel like my eyes personally could have only handled so much of that type of film. And don't pull your pitchforks on me and your torches on me, but I wouldn't have minded if this would have been a two-parter. I would not have minded if this movie started off with, the first part would have been all the way up until Falcone, and it would have almost kind of left in a cliffhanger sequence of like, okay, but the Riddler's still out there. What's next? And then the second movie builds towards a climax of like the Riddler squad all of a sudden, and maybe you could have added some extra elements and maybe established some other characters in that world as well. Um, I feel like that would not have been a problem in my opinion. I know a lot of people would have been, fuck that, we just wanted the Riddler story resolved that first movie. I get it. I'm just saying that I personally don't think it would have been a bad thing to split the movie in two. Um, Another thing I want to bring up about is I believe that this was a controversy that was going on around the internet as well in regards to this movie, and that's Zoe Kravitz's remarks into the woke culture, and how she brings up the rich white privileged man or something like that. That one line. I read about the controversy in the beforehand, and when I watched the movie, I want to say that, how do I word this? I want to say that I understand the complaint about woke culture in regards to this kind of movie, because it definitely portrays um, most white men in this movie like villains. Um, and again, you have the mayor, you have Commissioner Gordon, you have Catwoman, all from non-white heritages or cultures or skin colors, and they're the highlights of the good and the hope and the established good people here. I understand the comments in regards to it. Did it bother me in the movie? No, fuck no. I don't think it was a problem. I think if they were shoving down your throat every 5 minutes, like, hey, white people are bad. Hey, black people are discriminated. Hey, Latinos are being discriminated. I think if it was being shoved down or reminded every like 5-10 minutes, it would have been too much for me. But at the end of the day, like I didn't care for like the whole thing of like them being certain skin color throughout the entire movie. They played the roles, they did what they did. Um, I think the mayor popped up a little bit too more in my eyes for the simple fact that the controversy happened beforehand. And so when she came to be the goody two shoes mayor and like I want to help the people kind of thing, that kind of like yeah, but that has more to do with her character, if anything. There's her skin color, really. Like, if it was, any other character that was just the one good mayor that wanted to be, the goody two shoes, I think I still would have felt the same way as well. That it it would have felt a little bit too off because Commissioner Gordon is still a good cop, but he still has a little bit of a darkness going in him, that little bit of a rage and seriousness. And I feel like that's what maybe like the mayor would have needed. But then again, that you also have to keep in mind that she was in public, so she also has a reputation. She needs to keep up with the people, so she cannot show any form of aggression or hostility towards other people and other situations. So the mayor is one of the characters I really didn't care too much about in this movie, if I have to be honest with you. She kind of felt a little bit shoehorned in just to establish like this is the person this is the person that's good that we need to protect at the end of the movie. That's kind of how it felt. Um, so yeah, no, but otherwise I don't. It didn't. The whole situation is. I think the controversy is complete BS. I understand where the points being made, but I just feel like it's BS. So regardless, that's the hour-long spoiler talk of this, the Batman movie review, which I needed to get out the way because this movie is a long-ass movie. There's a lot to talk about, that's why, and there's a lot that I wanted to bring up as well. So if you like this review, feel free to leave a like down below. If you want to talk more about the movie, or maybe I said something wrong, or maybe I interpreted something incorrectly, or maybe there's something that I'm missing, or you maybe just want to inform me on something more, like, hey, by the way, this thing that you said about this, there's more to this, then feel free to leave it in the comment down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. Hopefully you didn't mind me geeking out too much or getting too detailed into certain areas. Again, I apologize for like the hour video. It's just I tend to do that when it comes to these talks because I like to talk a lot. But I'd love to hear your opinions. Follow me on YouTube over here. Follow me on Twitch if you like to. I play video games too. And I'm going to be doing similar reviews about other movies, games, and maybe other stuff that I got because I recently just got a collector's edition of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World video game, which I'm going to unbox tomorrow. But yes, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching, making it through, and hopefully you'll see me again, and I'll hear from you guys again in the future. Goodbye. Bye.